Hello traders, welcome to the Weekly Outlook and Setups volume 265. We are getting a lot of momentum into the market. We are continuing to get that Trump trade after the very recent US president election. So let's see how that is going to follow through. We're having 2 more weeks ahead of us within pretty much the last good trading month of the year. So let's dive straight into it and see what we can expect for the rest of this month. Alright, as usual, starting with the economic calendar. Now, pretty much we have NFP, CPI, and the Fed rate out of the way. So I do believe we're going to be getting some normal volatility into the next 2 weeks. So, of course, looking into the economic calendar for next week. Monday, we're actually going to be having that G20 meeting. So right now with the election of the new US president, there are a lot of shifting parts. There is going to be a lot of uncertainty going forward. But that also means more volatility. So we really have to be watching out. But yeah, Monday actually looks tradable. Tuesday, we're having some CAD news here. Minutes and hearings, I don't think it's very important. Nothing very important for the US here on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday as well, you can see the first 3 days, nothing very huge. You can see we don't really have any red US news here. Then on Thursday, we get the first one, that is the unemployment claims, but that is a very nice, just a very little boost of volatility. It's not like usually making any sort of shakeouts. And then you can see on Friday, it's actually the biggest day. It is the PMI day where we start very early in the morning with the euro, then the GBP, and then of course we're having the CAD, not the CAD, but the USD a little bit later on. So I will pretty much look to be trading every day this week. But of course, as we're going to look at the technicals right now, I have something important to say, so let's get into it. By the way, don't forget to join our free trading program right here. There is a lot of value inside. I'm also making some very nice publications. You get to talk to a lot of other traders. And also the classroom is absolutely packed with value, and it has a complete and comprehensive trading course. First link in the description. Make sure to join us there. Alright, as usual, starting with the DXY. Now we're going to be having one very important key point across all the pairs, and that is we are taking finally a very major point of liquidity. So that is a monthly swing point, and of course right now on the dollar we can say very likely it could even just pop a little bit higher to maybe take out that 107,500 level as well, that very massive swing point as well here. And then maybe potentially start to retrace a little bit, because usually when I have some sort of a swing point taken, depending on the time frame, that I expect either on the same time frame or one time frame lower for the market to potentially give us some sort of a pullback. And you can see on the weekly time frame, the DXY hasn't had a bearish week in a while. And of course, where was it headed? Well, it was headed for the liquidity. And currently we're taking, again, major liquidity. And again, I do see that one just a little bit above to also potentially get taken. And then after this, I would say start being like, don't expect the top, don't start taking shorts, okay? But potentially start expecting that the market might want to just offer a little bit more fair value, because currently we have just been rocking higher. This week, for example, we made this imbalance, but again, this is definitely not an imbalance that you will be looking for a potential retest. So within that massive weekly expansion candle, we can immediately transfer that to the daily. The daily time frame also rocketed very nicely. So Friday was the only bearish day, also pulling us back into that very last daily bullish imbalance. And now, of course, below we have a few here. But if we do fail this one, I would even expect for us to head to the weekly. So just as I always do, I have multiple levels across, for example, multiple different time frames. If this daily holds, we're going to pop towards the liquidity. If this daily does not hold, then potentially we can head for this imbalance here, or maybe even that weekly below. Now I'm definitely more bullish than bearish. You can even see that we're having that very nice daily swing point as liquidity. And then if I just very quickly transfer onto the 4-hourly time frame, we ended up as a little bit of a distribution here on Friday. Like it didn't continue higher, but I didn't really expect it to continue higher on a Friday. But we actually did tap into that daily imbalance. We popped up straight into that 4-hourly level, which I call an SDS here. So pretty much being stuck between two imbalances. Tapped in, it looks like it wants to hold, and we currently ended up in a very indecisive state. So you can, of course, right now start dropping onto the 1-hourly time frame. You can see, for example, we're having bullish structure here, pullback, a bullish imbalance. Like if that was a regular trading day, I will potentially start even looking to maybe get into some long ideas here. But pretty much right now I will just read and adapt and see what it wants to do. I will say I am more bullish still. Like this upper liquidity level is also looking very juicy to get taken first. Before then, maybe we start to initiate lower. But just watch out for that daily imbalance. Now, if we start having signs that the market doesn't want to continue going higher, and for example, starts breaking below that level here and starts making some hourly bearish structure in order flow, then I will even start, for example, calling all of these levels, because we're starting to see the stock market in a pullback mode this last week. So can the DXY also follow through with that a little bit? Let's see. I'm not calling a top. I am still bullish. I will still be looking for longs. Potentially, if that 1 hourly time frame actually starts responding and if we start building some bullishness, the first target will of course be that daily swing point, and then of course you can push it even towards that massive monthly swing point. But when we take out those two levels, if we do take them, then I will start getting a little bit more careful, because pullbacks could start incoming anytime soon. So let's see how the flow is going to continue with the DXY. I am still bullish as long as the market keeps showing me buyers, but as long as we start creating some bearish structure, I will also be open-minded to be taking shorts, simply because again of that massive liquidity being taken and expecting a little bit of a pullback. But for now, long bias. Let's see how the rest of the pairs look like. Euro USD, pretty much quite similar. We're taking that massive monthly swing point liquidity here, and we are potentially headed for that lower. Now, we still have 2 weeks of trading, and I do believe, for example, this week we might potentially continue to take the liquidity, and then the last week, which is going to be the monthly candle closure, we can maybe then initiate a little bit of a pullback to form like a monthly low. But that is way too much of a forecasting from me. Shouldn't really do that. Now, again, we're very strongly closing below that monthly swing point here. That indicates that definitely sellers are in control. It is not like a liquidity grab to say, hey, we massively wicked that level, so we can potentially next week even expect a pullback. A very nice weekly bearish imbalance, but I wouldn't really expect for the market to pull back into that. So I will be looking for, again, even if you take that weekly candle and just put a normal fib on it, you will be looking for some sort of a pullback here. So let's say the new weekly candle opens, you're going to be looking for it to open, right? Maybe to make a little bit of a pullback and then to potentially start going lower. So that is, for example, a weekly candle that I would imagine going into next week, but we of course have to check it out. Now, dropping onto the daily time frame as well, it has been rolling down very nicely. I hope you took some shorts this week. I was mainly focused on futures this week, didn't really trade Forex. The opportunities were provided a lot of the times during Asia. I even discussed this with my team on our webinar. 2 of the best setups this week on the shorts on the EU were provided during Asia. And then if you just wanted to jump in, it should have been like trading it a little bit too low, which is something that I don't really do. But daily imbalance tapped in on Friday and a very nice rejection. So let's see, is it actually going to immediately start rolling lower towards that liquidity target? That will be very nice. Because if we actually fail that daily imbalance, then you can start looking for higher levels. For example, this guy here. But if we're already getting towards that guy, I would even look for the weekly. So the last kind of resort for me is that daily imbalance. If it holds, then of course we can continue pushing lower. But if it does not, and if the market flips, then we can even start looking for the longs. But currently still short buys. You can see we tapped in, and again, similar to the DXY, we're ending up with a little bit of an indecision. So again, if it was again normal trading hours, I would be looking right now on the 1 hourly time frame. That is making some nice structure. You can see we have lower low, lower high, lower low here, confirming the potential order flow. We don't have a very clear imbalance here, which is something that I would love to have. But of course, we also have, for example, this order block. It actually looks very tempting for a short right here towards that low. So that will kind of be my forecast, although I don't really like trading the first thing on market open. Sometimes it's good, but a lot of times just let the market do its thing a little bit, let it develop. But if we of course start seeing bearish order flow, first target is going to be that daily low, and then potentially some more order flow towards that massive monthly swing point. So hopefully the DXY is also going to follow through. And then after this, like, we just really have to be careful once again. Are we going to continue breaking below? Are we going to start consolidating? Are we going to start shifting the order flow? But there is a lot of time until then. So for now, I am bearish bias, and I will only change my bias if we have a break, a closure with a body above that high here, and we start building some bullish order flow. And then I'm going to start targeting higher levels, which will simply mean that we're entering in a pullback. And knowing that we have massively taken that liquidity here, you do kind of have a little bit of a context to call a pullback. But don't go long until the market has actually shown you that it wants to go long, because currently it's just absolutely shorts, and that is the focus. GBP USD finally starting to move. We're having a very nice monthly bearish candle so far. I mean, we're currently taking these kind of equal lows here. They're not like a very major swing point. Then of course the next one that we have is here. Yeah, you can see on the weekly time frame that was quite choppy for quite a couple of weeks, but then this week pretty much the whole market expanded. So of course GU also followed. I do think we also had some news from the pound. We also have a speech from the governor. So yeah, very massive, expansive weekly bearish candle, and also following through on pretty much every single day. Now, the only zone that we have, unfortunately, on GU is this daily zone here. Not 2 days, it's 1 day. And we are just ending the week by grabbing that liquidity here. So I would expect some sort of a pullback. I hate calling pullbacks and stuff like this, but we just close this as liquidity, and kind of the only zone here as well that we have is that flowery zone. So is this a good trade according to me? Probably not. Why? Well, firstly, we're taking weekly liquidity. And when we take a weekly liquidity, I would expect at least like a daily pullback. So at least, let's say 1 or 2 days of a pullback, and then maybe to resume the shorts. Okay. Now, what I don't like about GU is that we don't really have anything on the daily within these days here. So for example, EU has it. Here GU does not. So am I gonna be expecting all the way up here? Not really. Okay, so let's say that we potentially, if we don't respond from that flowery zone, let's see if it maybe is gonna pull back a little bit, maybe take some liquidity above these highs, and then if we start shifting the order flow back to bearish, then for example a trade from here will be very nice. So that is something that I could potentially engage in, but this flowery zone exactly at the liquidity gap, exactly at the lower low, exactly at the overextension of the previous weekly candle, to me the positioning of this price is not very good for a short. So I'm very likely skipping this one and pretty much waiting out for the pullback and then a new alignment to go short, or maybe let's see if that follows through. And then if we start building some new structure going lower, then I will definitely engage, because again at that time the market is showing you order flow, is showing you that it actually wants to go down potentially to some lower targets, but that is way too low. But yeah, also bearish on GU. There is absolutely no signs that the market wants to pull back yet, or that the market wants to reverse. So I am fully short bias, and I will be looking for shorts. I just want to get a little bit of a better positioning. I just want to be selling from a lower high instead of like trying to sell a lower low and keep expecting that the market is gonna dump. Aussie dollar on the monthly time frame also headed potentially for that liquidity, dropping onto the weekly time frame. We're very nicely actually respecting that weekly imbalance, a very nice pin into it, and then right now we're getting the expansion pretty much, which is very, very, very nice. And then dropping onto the daily time frame, it's starting to look not that bad. Now Aussie dollar was looking really bad right here, so I just said, well, I'm just waiting for this one to get shaken out, like massive bullish, massive bearish, massive bullish, massive bearish. And then I said last week, let it just break out, let it do something. Right now we're having a very nice daily bearish imbalance. We're having a very nice target as well. So I'm starting to kind of like it. And even I would say if this market pulls back into that daily zone, I will absolutely be eager to potentially short it. You can see also the 40 time frame closes as a very big indecision. You can see a lot of wicks. You can see a lot of small bodies and a lot of wicks. So definitely I would just keep this analysis very simple and say that pretty much the only kind of trade that I would like to take is a pullback into that daily imbalance, and then of course a shift of structure, shift of order flow to continue going lower towards then that new liquidity target. That will be lovely. But again, of course, there is always the situation that the market might just want to decide to drop on market open, but then of course what I'm going to be looking for is for continuous order flow, for continuous imbalances to be created that simply indicate that sellers are in control, that momentum is to the downside. And then of course I'm going to continue shorting it, because if it starts flushing, that means that of course the DXY is continuing to be bought, that sentiment still prevails, and then of course we can continue with that flow. So that is AU. I always, guys, give you 2 scenarios, okay? Because if you always give yourself one scenario, you're not open-minded, you're already biased. So you should, I should be giving you like a third scenario of like, for example, if it goes long. If it comes into that daily imbalance, reacts, but then breaks the reaction and starts showing you bullishness, then you should also be ready for a long. So it's all about reacting, not predicting. Remember that. Checking out NZUSD, pretty similar to the Aussie. However, here we're actually taking the liquidity, while Aussie dollar, for example, is still going for it. But of course, on this one, we also have that monthly liquidity target below. Transferring onto the weekly time frame, we're having the very similar price action, a very nice weekly bearish imbalance, but it's already taking the liquidity, while Aussie dollar is still headed there. So you see there is that kind of a difference, which simply shows us that NZUSD is a lot weaker than the Aussie, but we had that same extremely choppy price action, and then I told you guys, wait for the market to just break out of it. Here is our brand new daily imbalance. We also have one above. We're also having, for example, this order block if you wish to trade from it. It's like a little bit higher than the daily, but it could act as a second barrier. Like, let's say that this is the first thing to stop price and push it lower, then this is going to be the second one, and if this fails, then you could even start calling the top here. So for hourly time frame, exactly the same as Aussie dollar, so I'm not gonna waste time on that one because it's extremely similar. Again, pull back into the daily and a short, and of course, if it just starts rolling down with new hourly bearish imbalances, then of course I'm gonna keep shorting it. And again, don't forget, you need to have 2 or 3 scenarios. This can also turn bullish if this daily imbalance fails to push price, and then you start from here starting to see bullish order flow. Then you can of course target the order block. Then if the order block fails, you can even start looking for longs, but that is way too much in the future. If I'm looking at the market freshly, this is what I'm looking for, so let's see if it plays out. All right, let's check out Mr. Gold. We are pulling back into that monthly imbalance with a lot of bearish steam. Now, let's just look at it a little bit zoomed out, right? We have been having how many months? We've been having 8 months consecutive bullish monthly candles. Okay, so a pullback is definitely incoming. And also, I do believe eventually gold should catch up onto the DXY, because again, the gold and the DXY are inversely correlated. So if gold is going up, DXY should go down, or if DXY is going up, gold should go down, right? So it should be the opposite. Meanwhile, we've been having the DXY also pumping for quite a couple of weeks. Meanwhile, gold has also been pumping, which is again something that doesn't happen very often. And I do believe right now we could be having a very sharp pullback like this, simply because gold might actually want to catch up on that lack of correlation, right? So we're right now tapping into that monthly zone. That is extremely interesting. We're just getting inside. We're actually getting a little bit deeper inside. But also at the same time, we're forming still bearishness. Okay, so some of you might already start looking for reversals. That is, I would say, completely wrong, because you should really see how much of a bearish order flow we're having coming inside that monthly. We're having a weekly bearish, we're having a daily bearish, and then very likely we're also having a 4-hourly bearish. Okay, so I am still short bias on gold. There is absolutely no way that I'm going against that selling pressure. And now then, of course, dropping onto the 4-hourly time frame, we also ended up the week in a little bit of a consolidation. But usually Fridays are choppy if you've had a very big week already. And like if you just zoom out a little bit, like even from Monday, we sold off here. No, like Monday and Tuesday was choppy. We literally sold off on the CPI, pulled back, sold off. No, wait a minute. What am I looking at? There is Monday. I'm so wrong about this. There is Monday. We just opened, we sold off. There is Tuesday, sold off again. There is the pullback, and then pretty much Wednesday into Thursday also sold off. So again, when you're having such a massive trend, don't keep looking for shorts on Friday. Just a little bit of a lesson here. Very similar to, for example, what we covered on the Aussie dollar. Daily pullback, looking for shorts towards that target. Now, I'm always going to be having it in my mind that we are inside that monthly imbalance, and of course that could eventually cause the market to reverse. But as long as that sell pressure persists, I'm just gonna keep shorting gold. Okay, because right now potentially a lot of people might start looking to buy it because, oh, there is the dip, we should start buying it. Well, the market could continue dropping a little bit further. But of course, if we start shifting the daily bullish order flow, the daily bearish order flow, sorry, and that the first sign of that will be a failure of that daily imbalance. So say, for example, we come in here and we react and try to push lower, but then we fail, and we then start printing even 4-hourly bullish structure and imbalances, then you can start, of course, targeting all of these levels here. Okay, and that is pretty much the market cycle. It is This is why I don't really like forecasts, because right now I'm telling you something and then Monday can already massively break above that daily imbalance, and I might be like, okay, I'm already bullish, I'm already starting to look for higher prices. But for now, if it was once again fresh market, this is what I'm going to be looking for. Pull back into the daily, entry model from the daily, targeting the daily target here, and then that's it. So still bearish for gold, but again, really observing it carefully. If any bullishness arise, you have a very good confidence in the form of that monthly imbalance. But again, guys, don't call the bottom, wait for the bottom to form and then just follow with the order flow. If you are long bias, you have a lot of time until new all-time high. So if this one eventually changes bullish, you're going to have a very good time, for example, with price action like this. But wait for it to first shift, because currently it's super bearish. USD is getting very interesting right now. The monthly candle, you can see it's starting to print a little bit of a wick on top, and what we're about to be having in 13 days is a monthly bullish imbalance. That is very interesting. Now on the weekly time frame, we actually had some very nice trades this week, by the way, on USD. We're coming from that weekly, and you can see we're very nicely pushing up. What I don't like right now is that the liquidity is being taken, and it's looking already like a sweep. Okay. But that pretty much happened on a Friday sell-off that is currently pulling us back. Pretty much we have one imbalance, two imbalance, and even the third one that is all the way down there. We're also kind of tapping into that order block. Those are those two sell candles before the very big buy. So we're tapping into a buy area. And again, like, it really depends on what the DXY might want to do, but I'm seeing a lot of sellers entering here. But that was just, again, a Friday sell-off after a very strong bullish week. Now currently it is getting a little bit tricky, because you can see the order flow has actually established a little bit bearish, and what I call by that is pretty much, you can see we've had a bearish breakout structure with an imbalance. The imbalance has been tapped, it has expanded, and it has made a new bearish imbalance. So this to me right now is the 4-hourly time frame actually being the sellers being in control on the 4-hourly time frame. But we're tapping into that daily bullish to the left. So currently we're in a supply and demand situation. So the key is, who is gonna hold? Are we gonna tap into that 4-hourly time frame, react, and then break, and then start looking for longs? Scenario 1. Are we actually gonna pull back and start giving entry models, hold, and then start expanding lower? Scenario 2. And you always have a scenario 3 of doing nothing, okay? But that's not very likely to happen. So those are my two scenarios on USD. It really depends on what the DXY will do. It really depends on how that daily imbalance is going to hold. To me, this looks like a very sharp pullback. Usually I would love to see like a choppier pullback, like something a little bit more corrective. When it's aggressive like this, when it's printing a lot of, for example, these kind of struggle areas, these kind of levels where the market could potentially then respond from, although this imbalance has been filled, so it no longer exists in my eye of view. In my eye of view, is that correct? But currently this is the current situation. Daily versus 4-hourly. The daily should usually hold, but I always also trust the lower time frames, because they signify who is in control right now. And then it usually happens like a domino effect. From the top here, for example, the 1 minute is first gonna take control, and then the 5 minute, and then the 15 minute, and then the 1 hourly, and then the 4-hourly, and then the daily, right? So it all starts, for example, with a 1 minute shift. Okay. Enough. All right, this is USD. I don't have a bias. I would say I'm more on the bullish side, simply because I do believe the dollar could continue going higher a little bit. But if I start seeing this 4-hourly imbalance actually hold and starting to print new order flow ranges going lower, you could potentially even start targeting liquidity points like this. So let's see how it goes. Be mindful and wait for more price action on USD. Very quick glance at the other JPYs. Euro JPY is starting to print a bearish monthly candle after tapping into that monthly imbalance. On the weekly time frame, you can already see actually here we're starting to see that the weekly is being disrespected. So again, tapping into monthly, weekly being bullish. Right now, seeing this weekly candle, I can immediately say we can potentially target that as liquidity. But then you can see it was extremely choppy all the way until Friday. Like something happened on Friday. Did we have any sort of JPY news? But we were tapping and holding from that daily imbalance, day 1, day 2, and then day 3 just kept sweeping the previous daily high. But Friday had some sort of a catalyst, also kind of tapping into that order block to the left, and then we literally sold off. So this one can very quickly go to the liquidity even on Monday, okay? But I would really prefer to have, for example, a new daily bearish imbalance to be formed right here, and then potentially to look to short from that. We also have, like, for example, this very nice order block to the left that is also printing. And on the hourly time frame, judging by this very massive momentum, I do believe we're going to have a sellout though. Okay, so for example, a very brief pullback like this and then potentially straight headed for the liquidity. Definitely doesn't look like a bad setup. A lot of sells into the Euro JPY. Do you know why that is? Because Euro USD has been extremely bearish, and right now that USD JPY also sold off, we're gonna start getting, for example, GJ and EJ with a lot of bearish momentum. So if you're looking to trade JPYs, I think right now it's a good time to do so. EJ short bias. Very similar situation on GJ, although it's a little bit choppier. Like, the weekly time frame is printing a bearish candle. It has been extremely choppy on the daily, and right now, just for the first time, we're having a very nice expansion candle. So even on GJ, I would say just wait for a daily imbalance to form and then maybe look for some sort of a daily trade. Now, of course, on the hourly time frame, we also have that similar hourly zone, but when it comes to that one, like, you don't really have any sort of targets here, like some of these lows. On the daily time frame, like for example lows like that, EJ is a lot cleaner, so I would kind of prefer EJ instead of GJ, also because the euro is technically weaker right now than the pound. Okay, so that is also setup that I will be looking on GJ potentially, but my favorite is EJ. It's also reacting from a daily imbalance, which GJ it is not. So if I'm to pick, I would pick EJ, but they're pretty much the same. All right, welcome to futures. I was mainly focused on futures. I took around, I think, 3 to 4 hours on futures this week. So I traded on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I really regret on not trading on Monday as well because it was extremely nice. But I told myself I'm not gonna do it, so I stick to my plan. So currently we're starting to have a little bit of a rejection from the top, and then the weekly time frame. What we're having right now on the weekly time frame is very interesting, and that is an invalidation of a new weekly bullish imbalance. And what that also does is it invalidates these two sell candles to be an order block, because I don't use order blocks if they don't have an imbalance. Okay, so what that immediately starts telling me, which is something that I don't really want to say, I hate calling tops and I hate calling like sell targets, but we can start looking for that level to be taken here, and that is a very nice 5% drop. That is a very nice and normal correction. For example, 5% is a very nice pullback. It's not even a correction, it's a pullback, right? So this looks more like a correction right now, 10%. But right now, we could be having a little bit of a pullback and then maybe to resume that trend. On the daily time frame, however, so what we are going to be seeing right now is this is the very last place that we're currently tapping in. Okay, and we're also retesting this overall structure here, like this overall sell to buy. It still has an imbalance here, so we can still count it. So it has a lot of support. Okay, but what I'm starting to see right now is that we're having the first sign that sellers are starting to pick up some control. So is this daily imbalance important? No, I always look at the very recent thing that is happening. I try to be as recent as possible, because I could also go and find, for example, I don't know, an imbalance like that to the left, but I'm not gonna short, although I'll pick a very bad example right here, because this one this one massively reacted, but it should be, for example, something like this. Okay, when you start seeing the bullishness take over, anything to the left is just like, it's usually not gonna work out, and it's usually just reaction areas causing the market to maybe pull back a little bit. Okay, so I really don't want to say this, but I'm starting to have a little bit of a short bias. The whole week was kind of making slight lower highs, not really any very big lower lows, but slow lower highs, right? And then pretty much on Thursday and Friday we started dropping. So there was a very nice fall imbalance here for shorts on Friday. I don't regret taking shorts on Friday, but I wish I did. But I said I've had an awesome week this week, so I don't want to destroy it on a Friday, but it was extremely nice. So currently, we're also having that hourly zone. I wouldn't really expect if the market to be bearish to pull back all the way to that daily. So very likely we're going to hold from that hourly zone, or we're going to wait for Monday to settle. And if we have a new daily bearish imbalance on Monday, so let's say, for example, Monday has an average candle, okay, and then it prints that daily bearish imbalance, that is going to be very nice and a very nice confluence to continue with the shorts. Okay, right now we're also kind of tapping into that guy, these two sell candles here, although there is a sell candle here, so that is technically the order block. If I go like to a 2-day time frame, that's gonna be the one. Okay, so a lot of support is currently being tested, so I really want to see if the sellers are actually gonna prevail, and if they do, and the more, for example, bearishness we keep getting, the more like this level is gonna become more likely to get tapped. Okay, so let's see how it goes. I do see some short-term sellers kicking in. Now the question is, are we gonna flush, for example, for 170 more points? Let's see. It's gonna be very nice. I'm luckily gonna buy some more stocks. Let's have a look at Nasdaq. Well, we have been seeing that Nasdaq is overall weaker than ES, and you can see, for example, we're very nicely right now sweeping the all-time highs. You can see we're already popped above, and we're already printing a very nice rejection candle that kind of amplifies my bearish bias on ES, and then potentially once again looking for that very recent target of liquidity. Now, this formation here is textbook liquidity grab, right? In and out. Massively bullish, massively bearish. So a textbook liquidity grab, also invalidation of a new weekly bullish imbalance, okay? And also printing a new daily bearish right here. That is a massive breakaway gap, just runs away from the actual imbalance. And yeah, we can also say that it's testing this imbalance, but looking at this candle, how deep it's getting, I'm not even gonna keep it on the chart. So Nasdaq is a lot weaker. Tech stocks are taking a little bit of a hit right now. So let's see, like within that massive daily expansion candle, I would definitely love once more to wait for Monday to form another daily imbalance. That will be very, very, very nice. But on the 40 time frame, you can see on Nasdaq, it's actually a lot weaker. We're having two fall imbalances as well that the market could potentially react from and continue with the shorts. So I'm currently seeing sellers. I'm currently seeing sellers in control. Buyers will have a lot of trouble to take over because they're going to have to deal with all of these zones. But of course, if we start eventually seeing higher lows forming and higher highs like that, I will definitely start looking for longs. But for now, that very recent sentiment is showing me shorts right now. You can see it kind of looks something like this, right? We have these highs. The market takes them in, immediately starts pushing lower. And then here you can see how many candles we had bearish targeting the liquidity. So right now it's exactly the same here. We had like a buy, but right now we're starting to get a lot of sell candles potentially to target that liquidity. And then maybe from there, from that 20,000 level, we can maybe start again heading higher. So the shorts I think are going to be very nice if they play out. So again, coming into next week, that is going to be my focus because that is the current sentiment. That is currently what the market is showing me. But of course, if any of these quality zones start getting failed, if of course we invalidate a new daily imbalance, if we make a new daily imbalance and then that daily imbalance actually fails, then of course I'm going to be very quick to be shifting my bias. With futures, I don't even do a lot of long-term bias and top-down analysis like this. I just jump in on New York Stock Exchange Open and I just flow with the market, and I enjoy it a lot because you literally look at 15-minute and 1-hourly time frames and simply ask the question, who is in control right now? And because these are amazing instruments and they're usually very volatile, they usually keep pushing, you usually get into some very nice continuation trades. So short bias on both ES and Nasdaq. Oh, it looks like we might be making a pullback. Let's check out YM. Well, checking out US 30, aka Dow Jones, aka YM in the futures market. Like so many names, that guy. It kind of looks like the most bullish one, and you can see here, right, that's kind of posing a little bit of a problem. You can see here that we're actually having a weekly bullish imbalance. We're having a weekly bullish order block here, so it's kind of looking a little bit more bullish than the rest of the indices are. And you can see this is the only one that we do not have a daily bearish imbalance. So US 30 is always kind of this black sheep that is it's not moving as the others, right? Let's see. That is gonna act as a lot of support, and it can potentially drag ES and NQ with it. Okay, but what I have found out is that the US 30 usually doesn't have as much power, but I have seen it, for example, when YM is flushing, okay, and then Nasdaq is consolidating, so ES kind of also is a little bit more on the short side, but it's not flushing. Or if YM is pumping, okay, but Nasdaq is flushing, it does happen, then ES is consolidating, Okay, so I still monitor it a lot. It tends to do like usually something different than the rest, but when it moves with the rest, then we're usually getting like an overall how do you call it, like a synchronicity between all of them. And you can see it doesn't even make like that many 4-hour imbalances. We did not make a 4-hour imbalance on the closure. We're having a 4-hour imbalance here that very nicely held for that Friday sell-off. But to me, this one is looking like a very nice pullback right now to start going long. Okay, so again, makes me double think about the big shorts that I'm kind of calling on the other futures. Let's see how it's gonna hold from that weekly imbalance. Let's see, of course, if it's gonna start printing bullish structure. It could be once again a very nice just long opportunity into the all-time highs. Let's observe it. I personally do not trade YM. I only trade ES and Nasdaq, but I always keep an eye on this one. So if this one starts turning bullish, I will be less careful with I will be more careful with shorting Nasdaq and SPX. So let's see. Checking out DAX real quick, it's kind of continuing the chop. You can see on the monthly time frame it hasn't done much yet. On the weekly time frame, it's just printing dojis, right? So doji the previous week, doji this week, sweeping. For example, right now this is a major sweep, right here. That is a weekly swing point that got swept. We can call all-time highs, but it's indecisive. It has been indecisive here in the last 6 bars. That is in the last 6 weeks. And then going on to the daily time frame, like look at this extreme chop. We did have, for example, a daily bearish imbalance here, but that daily bearish imbalance was formed, and then pretty much we took out the weekly liquidity. So right now that daily imbalance kind of could struggle a little bit more. Candle 1 and candle 2, it still looks like we're holding from here. We still have this daily order block that the market is holding from as well. You can take it like that. And then we drop to the 4-hourly time frame, and you can start seeing like, what the hell, we're having a 4-hourly bullish, and it doesn't look like it wants to hold. So I would just say on DAX, give it a little bit more time. Like, let's see if it's gonna actually close above that high. Let's see if it's actually gonna break out and print 4-hourly bullish structure. Then potentially I will start looking for longs, because that daily imbalance would have failed, and then my target is gonna become that high. Okay, but if we, for example, pick up on that bearish steam from the US indices, and maybe we start popping lower, then of course we can even look for that low. So again, this is just once again one of those 50-50 situations where you just have to wait for the market to show you its hand, and then you just jump on the train. Okay, that is DAX. Definitely not the cleanest index. Definitely I'm gonna give it more time, especially for some clearer structure on the 4-hourly time frame. Well, the conclusion for this week is that we are taking out very key levels of liquidity in the form of like weekly swing points. Okay, so that could cause the market to start a pullback, but the DXY right now is pretty much ending the week tapping into a daily imbalance. So the very key thing is this gonna hold and push the market higher? And if it doesn't hold, then we can start potentially looking for a pullback. But all the majors are also looking like short. EURUSD is looking like lovely shorts, also responding from that daily imbalance. GU is also looking like shorts, however this one is way too low and also doesn't really have any daily imbalances and hasn't really made any sort of a pullback lower high to potentially short it. So I will pick EU on top of GU. Aussie dollar and NZD dollar are also the same. They have beautiful daily imbalances that if the market pulls back into them, it could be a very nice short as well. Gold is extremely interesting right now, tapping into a monthly zone, but the weekly, the daily, and the 4-hourly time frame being bearish. Okay, so I would say it's more bearish, definitely, than bullish. But if we start failing some of these bearish zones, then of course we can start calling the longs. So again, be really careful with that monthly zone and really look for the market to give you good confirmation that, for example, your bearish zones are gonna hold. The JPYs are, I would say, more bearish than bullish. We had a very massive Friday sell-off here. On the UJ, it's tapping us into a daily imbalance, but it's also having a 4-hourly bearish. So that supply and demand situation here, we really got to see if the 4-hourly is going to hold and push the market lower. So then we can, for example, take shorts from here. Or is the 4-hourly time frame going to fail, which means then the daily is holding and then potentially take longs into that high. EJ and GJ are actually looking like very nice shorts. I'm a huge fan of Euro JPY short. Because it's reacting from a daily imbalance, printing a 4-hourly imbalance, and it's having a very clear draw on liquidity. That's a very favorite short of mine. GJ is just extremely choppy. I would pick EJ on top of GJ. And ES and Nasdaq are showing us some bearish signs. Okay, I even got brave enough to start calling this low as liquidity. Oops. But then, for example, I checked out YM, and US 30 is a lot more bullish. Okay, it's having like a lot of strength, unlike these two. But again, just think about the stocks. Here it is just 30 companies, and those exact 30 companies are not as weak as, for example, some of these tech companies are, or for example, the whole stock market collective within the 500 ones. So again, seeing that bearish pressure on ES and NQ, I will be more eager to be taking shorts going into next week. But the first sign that the buyers are starting to take control, I will, for example, start jumping into longs. And then DAX is just 50-50. It's a massive consolidation. It is super unclear. So I'm waiting for clear flowery signs on that one. So guys, let me know how you perform this week. Let me know what is your favorite setup going into next week. And yeah, let me know anything you want in the comments. And I'm gonna talk to you in the next Outlook.